The story begins with Ariake getting kicked out of the party. Apparently, he is an 18-year-old nobody who was forced to become an adventurer, which is why he lets his party members know that he'll happily leave their party, causing one of them to remind him that he's getting kicked out of the appointed heroes, the Great Vivia's party. Just then, one of his baddies named Delia interrupts, telling Ariake that they only let him carry their bags because they are from the same village, to which Elga agrees. The Smurf-sized side chick called Pulala also calls him useless, while Alicia mentions that she has been waiting for this moment for so long. Apparently, she is the great saintess whose name and busty body are known far beyond the borders. Turns out when they were younger, all of them used to be friends in their old village. However, Ariake can't figure out why they all hate him now and ends up asking Vivia the reason. Vivia replies that he only knows support skills that even their grandmas can use. The others start giving their opinions as well, and when Ariake tries correcting everyone, he gets interrupted by Alicia, who tells him to leave. Ariake ends up quietly agreeing while the others begin rolling on the ground laughing. After continuously roaming the forest, Ariake finally stops and realizes that he can't seem to find his way out. Apparently, he plans to go to Alti, which is a small town, but as this journey's going to take over a month, Ariake wonders if his old mates are going to be okay. This reminds him of the dream he had where God told him to support his friends, letting him know that his friends might die young if he refused. Back in the present, he suddenly hears someone asking for help in his mind. It lets him know that it's impossible for anyone to lift this curse and asks Ariake to end their life. However, Ariake ends up refusing, but that person keeps on persisting, saying that the pride of the dragon folk will be lost. He figures that there's no way a proud species like dragon folk would beg a human, but remembers the pain in that voice. Just then, that voice returns, now asking for Ariake to save them. At this point, Ariake eventually agrees and realizes that maybe that dragon folk thing wasn't a lie after all. Before long, he appears in front of a gate and finds a barrier. Wondering if the voice came from here, Ariake looks around and finds several corpses. Out of nowhere, a person appears behind him, followed by multiple zombies. Ariake notices that the old that guy is carrying is the necromancer's jewel, and when he mocks him, that guy gets furious and orders his zombies to make Ariake one of them as well. But to his surprise, Ariake pulls out a magic circle and easily eliminates the zombies, which causes that guy to freak out and questions who Ariake is, to which he replies that he's just a dead weight who got kicked out of the hero's party. Suddenly, one of the zombies grabs his hand and pulls him towards itself. When he starts begging for help, Ariake comments that this fate is no less than he deserves. While the zombies begin feasting on his unseasoned body, Ariake returns to his main objective. Realizing that there must be a dungeon past this barrier, he uses a skill named Metamorphosis and transforms himself into a zesty-looking Pokemon. He then begins digging the ground and makes his way to the other side of the gate. Following that, he notices that the place must be a high-ranking dungeon. In this world, adventurers are split into ranks from E to S. Most of them are B ranks and a rank, while the remaining few are S rank like Vivia and Alicia, the Great Saintess. Meanwhile, he is currently C rank, which in other words means an average Joe. Soon after, he runs into some gargoyles who question Ariake if he plans to release the Red Calamity. Ariake wonders if that's the person who called him and thinks how they must be important. Suddenly, all the gargoyles lunge at Ariake to end his life, and judging by their speed, he realizes that they must be level 60. However, both of the gargoyles end up bumping into an invisible wall before getting the chance to attack, and it is thanks to the spatial bending skill that Ariake used which turned the air into a wall. But to his surprise, one of the gargoyles ends up breaking that wall, forcing Ariake to step back. Without wasting any time, the gargoyle jumps at him and tries landing an attack on Ariake at the same time, and while he blocks a few of those strikes, he leaves some of the spots open, allowing the gargoyle to go for an attack. Unexpectedly, Ariake disappears from his sight, shocking the other gargoyles, and appears right behind him, mocking that gargoyle for falling for such an obvious trap. Before the gargoyle even gets the chance to comprehend what happened, Ariake beheads him with his hands, making the others wonder how he can defeat them so easily. Ariake lets that gargoyle know that this is reality and tells him to open the door for him, this time calling that gargoyle a wooden doll. Furious, he dashes towards Ariake to land an attack, but with an overpowered counterattack. Ariake manages to deal with that gargoyle for good. Apparently, all Ariake did was provoke him into making a mistake and use a skill that reflects his attack. Even though what he did was nothing special, He was still in the palm of Ariake's hand from the very start. Afterward, Ariake continues moving forward and comes across another door. There, he finds another hallway, making him realize that this dungeon is pretty huge. Apparently, dungeons function like living beings as they send monsters after intruders whose blood and magic feed the monsters, and this loop is how the dungeon grows stronger. Additionally, treasure chests are used to lure intruders inside, and as expected, a slime monster appears behind him as this one is a trap as well. But Ariake easily manages to take care of it and gets back to looting the chest. With that being said, he arrives in another room where he is confronted by a taller version of Ben Grimm. Ariake figures that the monster is level 80, and it would take a rank to defeat it. Without wasting any time, the golem tries crushing Ariake under his hands, making him realize that despite the size, the golem is pretty fast and that he shouldn't face it head-on. Unluckily, 2 more golems end up appearing, which now upgrades it to a fight only an S rank can win. The golems start attacking him once again, and after dodging the attacks, Ariake mentions that ranks are meaningless to him. This reminds him of the time when Vivia was roasting him for being a C rank weakling. Delia also joined, telling Ariake that even a ranks are on a completely different level than him, which made him wonder how strong he even is. As expected, Vivia told him that he's probably the same as any random villager, and that the tremors a golem makes would be enough to freeze Ariake in his tracks. Back in the present, Ariake jumps on one of the golems, and after marking it, jumps on the other to do the same thing. Following that, he admits that Vivia was right about the tremors and figures that he needed to land carefully. Eventually, he lands on the third golem to mark it as well, and now that all of them have been marked, Ariake uses his skill to blow them all into bits. This fight confirms Ariake's theory of a broken ranking system, as a C rank could never defeat golems. Just then, a key drops on his head, and after picking it up, Ariake notices a door nearby and wonders if the red calamity that asked him for death is in there. Nonetheless, he opens that door using the key and steps inside, where he finds a geezer who seems to be rocking quite the fresh drip. He lets Ariake know that in over 1,000 years, no one else has made it here and calls Ariake truly skilled. Furthermore, he asks for Ariake's name, but gets ignored by Ariake, who in return questions who in the world he is. After calling himself a high priest, he is about to say his name, but gets interrupted by Ariake, who lets him know that he doesn't care, telling whoever asked for his help to come out. The priest gets surprised hearing that he was asked to come here and figures that the barrier must have weakened after so many years. Following that, the priest mentions that the dungeon is not finished yet and mentions that Ariake must be exhausted from the ordeal, only to see Ariake busy cleaning his own dungeon. He then tells the priest that he barely took any damage, but the priest doesn't buy it and can't believe Ariake can defeat those golems without any injuries. This makes Ariake mention that they were powerful, and it would have been tedious dealing with them, so he beat them all with one move, causing the priest to get even more shocked. Ultimately, Ariake explains that strength doesn't matter as he didn't use attacks, but used magic magnification instead. Golems are delicate creatures as their magical nervous system requires incredible precision, but it's also their weakness, as if magic is forced into them from outside. Their delicate magical system overloads and explodes. However, the priest still can't believe it and mentions that a small amount of magic can't affect a golem. One would need a huge amount, and even if the kingdom's mages are gathered, it would still not be enough. Ariake once again reminds him that he's standing here unharmed, but the priest still refuses to believe him, and at the same time, decides to have Ariake sacrificed for the pursuit of godhood. Turns out that priest wants to become an immortal god and rule over all. However, Ariake doesn't seem to care and starts finding the person who called him over. Following that, the priest decides to reward Ariake for making it this far, and lets him know that in order to become a god, he needs a magic reservoir, and the key to the ritual is none other than the daughter of the Jespant dragon. When Ariake gets shocked seeing the dragon girl, the priest lets him know that he will use this dragon folk to become a god, calling himself a genius, only to later question the disgust in Ariake's eyes. Ariake replies that this is unforgivable no matter the race, and adds the fact that he's no genius but just a worthless criminal. When the priest asks if he's really calling him a criminal over a lowly dragon, Ariake mentions that it doesn't matter what she is, as it doesn't change the fact that he locked her away. Furthermore, he calls it common sense and says that it might not be for someone like him. The priest gets furious after hearing some fine roast come out of Ariake's mouth, and starts charging up his wand with magic to take care of Ariake. Eventually, he fires that attack towards Ariake while he pulls out another magic circle to protect himself from it. This results in an explosion and the priest, brimming with confidence, begins thinking Ariake is done for, only to get hit by a crystal in one of his eyes. Ariake then mentions that he thought that the priest would be stronger because of the dragon folk and asks if this is all he's got. Hearing all these insults makes him even more enraged, and after tapping on the crystal that dragon folk is trapped in, he asks Ariake if he came to save her and how eliminating her would ruin his plans. However, he is sure that she might live, but he wonders what would happen if he absorbed all its magic, as then it wouldn't be strange for her limbs to rot away. Having no other choice, Ariake promises not to lay a hand on him, but the priest refuses to believe Ariake and tells him to prove it. With that being said, Ariake ends up nullifying his magic and skills, saying that he won't put her in any more danger, and with this nullification, he can't do anything either. After getting this once-in-a-lifetime chance, the priest gets ready to attack Ariake when suddenly, he notices the crystal wobble and falls right next to him. This fall injures the priest's arm as well, and Ariake comments on how strong the crystal is. The priest then begins wondering why it fell, as he had sealed it in place with magic, and Ariake reminds him that he nullified his powers and skills, which affected everything around him as well. But when the priest argues that it's impossible to nullify another's magic, Ariake kicks him on the cheeks, reminding him that he came here to get her out. However, the priest advises Ariake to give up and says that the crystal is quite strong, but it doesn't take long for Ariake to shatter it using his hands, shocking that poor old man. Following that, Ariake mentions that it was easy to break because the magic has been nullified. While he tries picking her up, the priest questions what he's doing to it and what will happen to his ambition to ascend to godhood. This causes Ariake to grab the priest by his face and tie him up, telling him to stop calling her that. Now that the priest has been taken care of, Ariake pats on the dragon folk's face, asking if she can get up. Before long, she opens her eyes and Ariake figures that she'll be fine. After recognizing his voice, the girl realizes that he came to save her, as she didn't think he would. Afterward, she tries to thank him but fails due to her worsening condition, which makes Ariake want to analyze her. After analyzing her, he tries saying something but gets interrupted by her, who lets him know that a worthless dragon like her has no reward to offer. She then notices the priest lying on the floor and confronts him for locking her in there for a millennium, and even stealing her birthrights. She then tries getting up to settle the score, but once again fails and begins coughing. This makes her feel pathetic, and she mentions that she's completely useless without her dragon birthrights. Ariake gets curious and asks what are the birthrights she has been talking about, and since that girl dragged him into this, she decides to explain everything. Apparently, one needs 4 birthrights to be worthy of being called a dragon, and they include long life, self-renewal, destructive power, and dominion over the skies. But that priest tried to become God by taking those powerful birthrights from her. While she doesn't know if a human can become God, she is aware that the sovereign lineage of dragons is tied closely to the gods. Hearing the word sovereign lineage surprises Ariake, and the girl lets him know that she's dragon folk royalty, the youngest daughter of the Dragon King. However, she's a failure as her birthrights have always been weak, and the reason she looks like a freaky cosplayer is because she can't maintain her dragon form. Apparently, she was also banished from her house as a disgrace to her bloodline, and was then captured by the priest who stripped her birthrights from her. They may have been weak, but those birthrights were hers, and now that they are gone, she's no longer a dragon. Following that, she begins begging Ariake to put her down, as she can't continue on like this and would rather die than live any longer with this shame. But to her surprise, Ariake flicks her head, and when she questions the reason he did that, Ariake reminds her that he's not going to help anybody take their own life and asks what she said to make him come. That girl instantly figures out what he means and asks Ariake to save her, making Ariake pat her head, reassuring her that this is why he's here. However, she starts panicking over her birthrights again, saying that even if they come back, she'd still be a weakling. Just then, Ariake gets an idea to try something, and when she questions what he is trying to do, Ariake replies that he'll get her birthrights back. Not only that, but he also plans on freeing her from the curse that's been weakening her. When she questions if she were cursed, Ariake agrees and adds that according to his abnormal status detection skill, she's under a decently uncommon curse. Thinking about the curse rings a bell in her mind, and Ariake further mentions that this curse has diminished her 4 birthrights to the lowest limit, and that the high priest could only steal them because they were weakened. Once the curse is lifted, her birthrights should return, which is why Ariake wishes to prove a bit of backup. When she asks if he can really do it, Ariake tells her to prepare herself and activates skill disenchant, synthesizing it with skill restore and boosting it with skill accelerating to its highest level. Following that, he warns her that it might hurt a bit, and just as the skill gets activated, she gets overwhelmed with pain and starts having a hard time breathing. Before long, the curse starts leaving her body, and after it's completely gone, she faints and falls right into Ariake's arms. When he questions if she's still alive, that dragon girl finally takes a breath and slowly starts recovering from what just happened. Ariake gets impressed as he thought that she'd pass out for sure, to which she replies that she did faint for a second. Moreover, she notices the curse flying in the air and figures that this disgusting thing was inside of her. Ariake let her know that it was so well hidden that even Analyze's skill wasn't able to find it. It was specifically designed to steal her reason for living by severely weakening her dragon birthrights. This curse is the reason she was always considered a failure. Suddenly, that curse then begins moving and enters the High Priest's body. This makes Ariake realize that whoever placed the curse made sure that it couldn't come back to it, headed straight for the weakest person it could find. And as that curse was meant for dragons, a human like the priest couldn't withstand it. Just then, she begins feeling a bit weird and realizes that she can now feel the power surging inside of her. Ariake lets her know that her self-renewal allowed her to recover quickly, and she points her hand towards the ceiling, letting out an attack which results in a giant explosion. While Ariake is flabbergasted, she is overjoyed to think that this is her true power and mentions how she'd like to reduce this dungeon to dust. Furthermore, she calls Ariake her master, and tells her how immensely grateful she is to Ariake for saving her and getting rid of the curse which was sealing her powers. Ariake replies that it wasn't a big deal, but she argues that it was, and that he's the one who's on a different level. Afterward, she asks Ariake what he thinks of this form, asking if he is into short flatties like her. But when Ariake mentions that he's not particularly interested, she regrets thinking that she looked better than before. To make her feel better, Ariake tells her that she was beautiful the moment he first saw her, and still is even with her powers back. He then apologizes for hurting her feelings, calling her a beauty of ages whose eyes and lips are like gems while her arms and legs are slim and graceful. Embarrassed, she tells Ariake to stop as she can't take it anymore and mentions how he's an unwitting ladies' man. Furthermore, when Ariake requests to analyze her once again, she instantly allows him, adding the fact that he's the only one she wouldn't mind seeing all of her. However, Ariake is too shocked seeing her status and says that she's level 99, has 1 million HP and 200,000 MP. This can't even be called another level, which makes Ariake wonder if all dragons are this strong, but gets told by her that these stats are clearly way too high. Just then, something else pops up, and it turns out to be a new title called the Celestial Dragon and her rider. Ariake mentions how amazing it sounds, and she figures that he must be the rider. When Ariake questions her about this rider thing, she replies that it's a title bestowed upon those a proud dragon truly trusts, and those riders are known as dragon knights as well. What's more surprising to Ariake is that she's a celestial dragon, but she argues that becoming a celestial dragon isn't so easy, as while she has holy roots, she's merely the Dragon King's daughter. It's likely because she could become her ride. This makes Ariake ask if he turned her into a celestial dragon, to which she agrees, saying that he started giving off a divine aura a bit ago. Still confused, Ariake wonders why he became a dragon knight in the first place and gets told that it's because they are kindred spirits. This reminds her that she hasn't even introduced herself, and lets Ariake know that her name is Colette, the youngest daughter of the leader of Jespant Dragons. Ariake also introduces himself as a dead weight who was kicked out of the party, and with that being said, Colette suggests discussing their plans while they walk. But to her surprise, Ariake asks if she thinks she can tag along, and when Colette asks if she can't, Ariake agrees. This causes her to cry and reminds Ariake that he's her knight who saved her and now has to take responsibility. But Ariake replies by advising her to head home, to which Colette disagrees, saying that as she was banished, she can't just go back. Furthermore, Colette believes that whoever cursed her is from her village, and they likely wanted her out of the line of succession, which is why going back could be risky. Ariake apologizes for making her rethink those bad memories, but Colette reassures him that it's fine and requests to let her accompany him. Ultimately, Ariake agrees, allowing her to stay for as long as she wants, and when Colette asks if he's serious, Ariake replies that he's her rider and it's only natural that they travel together. This gets Colette brimming with happiness, but at the same time, Ariake is sure that with a hot dragon chick by his side, he'll stick like a sore thumb. With that being said, he suggests doing their best, to which Colette agrees, saying that they are going to do great things, calling him her dear dragon knight. While the two of them walk towards the next town, Ariake informs her about everything that happened, causing Colette to get furious at his old party members. She mentions that he is the reason they could form a party in the first place, but Ariake tells her to pipe down as he's glad they can stand on their own 2 feet now, adding the fact that even the way they sent him off puts a smile on his face. As he's managed to help them avoid an untimely death, he's happy. Following that, Colette questions if there were any hot babes in that party, to which Ariake agrees, letting her know that there were 3 in total. Shocked, Colette makes up her mind not to lose to them, making Ariake think how dragons can be emotive. Meanwhile, Vivia chugs a glass of beer and laughs about how miserable Ariake looked when he left. Delia and Pilala agree, saying that he was so irritating, and when they ask Alicia if she thinks the same, she gives them a bland reply, saying that a party with no hero can hardly be called a party. Vivia agrees, telling everyone that they have nothing to worry about as long as he's here, and suggests raiding the cursed grotto again since they have just lost a member. While they mention how easy it would be without any dead weight, Alicia looks out the window and says that they are missing something now, something that can't be found here. Elsewhere, Ariake and Colette eventually arrive in the town of Medicine and decide to take a break as Alti. The town they want to visit is still a long way from here. Colette gets shocked seeing all the buildings after a millennium and mentions how the town seems really prosperous. However, Ariake notices everyone ogling at Colette and gets interrupted when she smells something really good and suggests checking it out, calling him her master. Hearing the word master makes everyone stare at Ariake with disgust in their eyes, causing him to tell Colette not to draw so much attention. After arriving at that restaurant, Colette's mouth turns into Niagara Falls seeing all that delicious food. Realizing that she's going for the whole pig at once, Ariake advises her to take a more sensible bite. But Colette totally ignores him and bites the pig's head off. Even the chef compliments Colette for being quite the eater, and when Ariake questions why the restaurant is emptier than a theater playing the Minecraft movie, the chef asks if they came here without knowing and informs them that it's because of the Devil's Grove that suddenly appeared right near the town. The kingdom has sent knights, but most shops are closed, and he is not sure how long they can stay afloat either. He also advises Ariake to leave before it's too late, and when Colette asks about the Devil's Grove, Ariake replies that it's a monster's nest made by the Demon King, but unlike dungeons, monsters can leave the nest and cause trouble. Apparently, Devil's Grove has 5 phases, with the 5th being the most dangerous. If the boss at the end isn't defeated quickly, the grove will spread, and its monsters get stronger. Ariake guesses that it's probably still in phase 1, and usually, a hero is sent in before it gets too serious. As this could affect their journey, Ariake decides to find out a little more about it and plans to stop by the Adventurers Guild. Later that day, the two of them enter the guild and everyone begins giving them deadly stares. Colette mentions that it's so tense, to which Ariake replies that the Devil's Grove has them on edge. Afterward, he goes to the receptionist who tells him to state his name. But when Ariake introduces himself and requests information about the Devil's Grove, she gets shocked along with everyone else, who starts to wonder if he's the guy who got kicked out of the hero's party. The receptionist then tells him to wait and not run away as a royal decree is in place. Hearing about the royal decree comes as a shock to Ariake, and he decides to wait. Soon after, Dwayne Johnson steps out, asking if he's the one claiming to be Ariake. When he agrees, saying that he doesn't have any proof, the Baldy mentions that there's no need as he's a perfect match and gives him a paper with his picture on it. He then introduces himself as the Guild Master, Osham, and informs Ariake that his adventurer's license is hereby revoked. As expected, everyone begins discussing this matter, and Ariake mentions that he figured they'd drop his rank, but never expected them to do this. With a smile on his face, he says that he can't accept any more requests or buy resources now, making Colette question why he sounds so happy. Nonetheless, he comments on how he was only in the guild because he was forced to join, and talks to Osham about the Devil's Grove, saying that he'll need all the help he can get, which is why he can't understand why he decided to revoke his license now. However, Osham replies that they don't need help from the hero party's outcast, as the Royal Knights are already headed there, and they have more than enough adventurers to clean up after them. Furious, Colette asks if she can burn them to crisp, but Ariake tells her not to and wonders why they didn't send the hero's party, as the hero's party should have been closer than the knights. Osham further says that they have no use for Ariake, as once the knights have defeated the boss, the adventurers will clean up the rest. With that being said, Ariake decides to walk away when suddenly, the guild door opens and a knight, covered in blood, steps inside. Everyone gets shocked to see him injured so badly, and he announces that the siege of the Devil's Grove has failed. Additionally, a horde of monsters is headed here, and as the royal knights are obliterated, the adventurers are ordered to defend the town. After saying that those who run will be executed, the knights lose consciousness and everyone starts to panic, regretting what they have signed for. Ariake checks the knight and realizes that he'll live and figures that the monsters followed the surviving knights, and now the adventurers are in a panic. When Colette asks if he can defeat the monsters easily, Ariake replies that he'd rather not be the center of attention. Just then, Osham slams his fist on the table and tells everyone to pull it together as if they don't act. They all will die anyway. Even though the adventurers agree with him, they are still confused about what they should be doing. Realizing that somebody's still willing to do his job, Ariake walks towards Osham and drops a bag full of cash in front of him, asking Osham to leave this one to him. Hearing him say those words make Osham question what a C rank like him can even do against a monster horde, and when Ariake asks him about the reward for this cleanup, he gets told that it's a lousy gold coin that's hardly worth risking their lives for. Ariake agrees with this as well, and when Colette questions what he is getting at, Ariake starts climbing the table, saying that nobody's going to risk their lives for some pocket change, and starts counting all the adventurers present at the guild. Following that, he picks up the bag full of gold coins and spills them on the floor, announcing that he will reward anyone who fights to the end, and the reward will be 100 gold coins per adventurer. Everyone freaks out after hearing about this much bread, and Ariake further tells everyone to consider this a contract under royal law, a contract between him and the adventurers. Hearing this shocks them even more, as no one who enters a contract by this name can break it. All the adventurers start talking about how a 100 gold coins can easily buy them an anime waifu body pillow, to which Ariake agrees, saying that a 100 gold coin could buy them mostly anything, and now is their chance to seize it. As the royal army has been defeated, only the adventurers of this town can save it. Furthermore, he questions if they are going to let their peace be destroyed by some monsters, and after reminding them that they are adventurers, he tells everyone to risk their lives for some extraordinary sense. After advising everyone to stand and fight to protect the town, he catches everyone's attention, including Colette, who is impressed by her master using her brain for once. Meanwhile, the adventurers start agreeing with Ariake's speech, talking about how they lost their virginity in this town and can't let the monsters destroy it so easily. Knowing that there's no way to run anyway, the adventurers decide to go home to their families as rich men instead, and those who were once panicking are now motivated to defeat those monsters, including the Egghead Guild Master, who was talking straight out of his cheeks. With that being said, they all start preparing to fight those monsters heading towards the town. Osham also partakes in the preparation and plans to follow the vanguard once all the preparations are complete. Soon after, Ariake also appears, asking if everything is going well, causing Osham to get closer to him and thanking him for the help, as it wouldn't have been possible with Ariake. Osham further mentions that he figured that no one would listen to a C rank who got his license revoked, but now he looks kind of inspiring to him, which makes Osham wonder if he's really as incompetent as they say. Furious, Colette steps in, telling Osham that he should know better than to call her master incompetent, and calls him greedy meathead, who even insulted him earlier. Luckily, Ariake calms her down, saying that he's the one who offered to pay, and it worked because people can't live without making some dough, while it's the role of those at the top to pay them fairly. Making them risk their lives for a single gold coin is outrageous. This makes Osham question how he got this much money, to which Ariake replies that he just saved up, as the hero's party goes on a lot of high-ranking quests. Curious, he further mentions that Ariake doesn't have any connection to this town, so why is he doing this for them? Ariake then points towards the restaurant with the green roof, saying that they make really good shellfish pasta, and it would really suck if he couldn't have it again. Osham begins smiling hearing about this and starts patting his back, promising to treat Ariake with the reward if they make it back alive. With that being said, one of the adventurers informs Osham that they are ready, and he appears in front of all the adventurers, letting them know that the town of Medicine only has fences and ditches to defend itself, so they are the last line of defense, as they fall, so does the town. Additionally, his plan is to make the defenders stand in front of the attackers while the mages will support them from behind. Even though it feels hopeless after what happened to the knights, Osham believes that they must win and return home. Seeing them fired up, Colette wonders if this is going to be okay, as there are around 1,000 enemies, while the number of adventurers is somewhere around 100. This makes her question if Ariake is going to take the monsters out himself, but gets told that having some savior show up and take care of everything wouldn't for out in the long run. Without confidence, it's impossible for them to protect themselves and the town, which is why he's doing this so they can work together and win. Surprised that he'd go this far for them, she suddenly hears an explosion go off and figures that the fight had already started. Ariake then suggests going as well, as even though they need to win with their own strength, he still wants to offer his support, as doing that much for them should be fine. On the other hand, the battle against the monsters continues and Asham orders everyone to push forward and attack the middle as their numbers are thin. Just then, a goblin is about to chop off an adventurer's head, but gets hit with a Uno reverse card instead. Furthermore, Asham tells everyone with less than a third of their HP to retreat and tells the support adventurers to cast strengthened skills on the attackers. Suddenly, he hears another explosion and wonders what the Negel brothers are doing over there. Apparently, one of them keeps punching the ground while the other is swinging a sword to fight the monsters. They discuss how one of the healers is out of MP when suddenly one of them gets attacked by a goblin, but tells his brother to stay focused as more enemies are coming. Moreover, he tells everyone not to just stand around and attack, as if they fall, the town's done for. Following that, Asham is informed that a third of the left flank has fallen, and the Negel brothers are severely injured as well. Asham tells him to pass out the healing potion stock when suddenly, another adventurer appears, saying that the right flank is requesting reinforcements as a caterpillar dragon has appeared and needs at least 3 A-rank adventurers. However, Asham replies that they don't have men to spare, telling him to take care of it themselves as things are rough here as well. To his frustration, another adventurer calls out his name and points towards the giant ogre standing right in front of him. Asham recognizes it as the Ogre King, and the adventurers start losing hope as the Ogre King is usually an S-rank monster. Without wasting any time, Asham orders everyone to run away when unexpectedly, the Ogre King opens his mouth and lets out a roar, causing all the adventurers nearby to fall onto the ground. Asham, unable to do anything, asks if the healers can move but find them in the same situation. This gives the other monsters the chance to run free, and just when one of them is about to hurt one of the elf baddies, it gets his head chopped off by Ariake. She looks at him in surprise and gets told that an Ogre King's skill paralyzes normal adventurers. Flustered, the elf asks Ariake to allow her to thank him, but gets interrupted by Colette, who stares in her soul and accepts all the gratitude she has to offer. Just then, Asham calls out Ariake's name and gets told by Ariake that he's doing much better than expected. Following that, he questions why Ariake is on the front lines, as a C rank like him will end up dead in no time. Ariake replies that this was his request, and he has a responsibility to see that it succeeds. Following that, he lets everyone know that they've still got a long way to go before this is over, advising them to stand back up and fight. As he uses the skill named Psychic Resistance Up, all the adventurers in the surroundings start feeling lighter and their numbness disappears, allowing them to move freely once again. Knowing that this should take care of the Ogre King's skill, he tells Colette to do her job, and she dashes towards the monsters. After jumping in the air, she lets out her breath of fire and burns all the goblins beneath her to crisp. Colette then makes a safe landing and asks Ariake how it was, hoping that it was everything he hoped for. While Asham can't believe what he just saw, Ariake mentions that she's as strong as ever. Following that, Asham tells Ariake that even though he bought them sometimes, the enemy's still advancing, but according to Ariake, they are still at a disadvantage, as it'll take a miracle to win when they have little defense and are outnumbered 10 to 1. Knowing that the issue is their numbers, Ariake decides to use a skill that gives the adventurers tenfold status buff. While Asham is shocked hearing what he just said, Ariake continues by telling him that he'll also debuff the enemy's stats down to a 10th, which should be enough to turn the tide of this battle. But according to Asham, buffing them tenfold is impossible, and believes that there's no way Ariake's skill can affect that entire horde. However, Ariake replies, telling Asham that it's possible, and tells him now to worry as all they need to focus on is winning. With that being said, Ariake begins activating his skill called the Party-Wide Net, and applies its effect to all the adventurers within range. When Asham reminds him that there are hundreds of them, Ariake replies that he knows and decides to start with the skill damage reduction, as that should keep all of them fairly safe. Asham also notices his skin getting tougher, but argues that it's not even close to 10 times stronger, only to be told by Ariake that he isn't done yet. Afterward, he uses agility to increase everyone's speed, evasion boost to increase their evasion, divine blessing to nullify damage, and chance evasion to increase the likelihood of enemy attacks missing. However, he's still not done, and after activating the damage ratio down skills, he ends up activating 12 more skills and lastly, the critical damage up skill. Now it's time to debuff the enemy, but as there's so many of them, he decides to summarize telling the magic to invert his buffs onto the enemy. Following that, the adventurers notice the enemies rushing again, which makes them wonder if the buff even worked. Without any hesitation, the elf Ariake saved earlier picks up a sword and manages to cut down 3 monsters with a single strike, later mentioning how it feels like she's a completely different person. The other adventurers notice that the battle seems really easy now, and Asham, after swinging his axe, tells Ariake that it has gotten easier and how Ariake managed to stack 20 buffs when 3 are said to be the limit. However, this isn't something new to Ariake, as he always did this when he was at the hero's party, and it surprises everyone when he says that if they count the minor buffs, it would be a little more. As expected, they all start to complain about how even the village guard dog can win with all these buffs and start wondering if they only make it that far thanks to Ariake. Colette agrees, telling them that they still kicked him out even after he supported them for so many years. But Ariake asks her to calm down as he has accepted the fact that they don't need his skills anymore. However, thinking about his party again starts making him worried about their well-being, causing Colette to comment on how he gets all weird whenever those guys come up. Nonetheless, Ariake mentions that they don't have time to chat as the monsters are still closing in, but now, they all are confident as they've got their so-called Lord Ariake protecting them. While the battle continues, Ariake mentions that he needs to stop them from calling him Lord and questions why the ogre hasn't budged, thinking that he could be cautious or not plan to act as long as he has his minions. Colette believes that even with all Ariake's buffs, a normal person would struggle against him, to which Ariake agrees. At the same time, he's confused as the Ogre King doesn't normally spawn in the barren phase of a Devil's Grove. Moreover, he notices the look on Colette's face and allows her to fight the ogre if she really wants to. Knowing that the adventurers won't be able to handle him anyway, he asks Colette to do so. Just then, the ogre also moves a little, which gives the two of them the perfect chance to run at him. But to their surprise, he seems to be aiming at the adventurers fighting his minions, and just when he thinks that he crushed them all under his hand, he finds Colette holding it from crushing everyone, saying that protecting humans is such a pain. Ariake then tells that adventurer to leave the ogre to them and take care of the rest, while Colette tells him to call her Lady Colette from now on. Following that, the ogre tries crushing her as well, but she gets out of the way just in time. Then, he prepares to hit them with a paralyzing attack, but before he can even open his mouth, Colette jumps up and lands a critical punch on its face. Meanwhile, Ariake also gives himself a bunch of buffs and with a single kick, manages to make the ogre fall onto the ground. Everyone starts celebrating and Colette praises him for doing a good job when suddenly, the ogre grabs her and throws her onto the ground. Seeing blood come out of her head, Ariake mentions that this is bad, causing Asham to question if she's going to die. But Ariake replies that this is not what he means, as they both see Colette standing back up and asking Ariake if she can show him what she can do. In the end, he gives her the get-go, reminding her that he's her dragon knight and suggests showing them what they're made of. In the meantime, Asham continues eliminating all the goblins and mentions that all the small fries are now taken care of. Following that, he orders an adventurer to let the central forces know that they are coming and tells Ariake that all that's left is the ogre. But to his surprise, the ogre has already opened his mouth wide apart and lets out a roar that paralyzes all the adventurers once again. However, both Colette and Ariake remain unaffected, and she questions if that's his only trick. Meanwhile, Ariake figures that Colette's powers haven't been fully awakened even though the curse has been lifted, and is worried what might happen to her. To deal with this, he ends up giving her a ton of buffs, but gets told by Colette that he is underestimating her. Nonetheless, she lets out a smirk, saying that if this is how she shows his love, then that fills her with power. Ariake then begins feeling something strange, as if something is resonating from within. Apparently, dragons that have acquired a rider can draw on their dragon knight's power, which allows the dragon to reach their true potential. This causes Ariake to allow Colette to use his powers as she pleases and activates the skill named Final Gambit, which gives her the boost of power she needed to reveal her true form, that is of a Jespant god dragon. While everyone is shocked seeing a literal dragon in front of them, Ariake thinks about how the Final Gambit skill allows the target to regain their innate power for a brief moment. So, his using this skill allows Colette to manifest her true powers without any negative effects. After Colette fully transforms into a celestial dragon, she lets the Ogre King know that by her dragon knight Ariake and herself, she will now be judged. With that being said, Colette powers up her fire breath and attacks the ogre with all her might, landing a direct hit. After protecting themselves from the shockwave, they all look at the ogre, only to notice that it has completely disintegrated. Afterwards, Colette transforms into her Slay Queen form again and falls towards the ground and into Ariake's arms. He makes sure to praise her for it, to which Colette replies that it felt really incredible. All the adventurers are shocked to see the heroes fight and Oshun falls onto the ground, relieved that it's finally over. Ariake mentions that as the boss has been defeated, they have finally cleared the Devil's Grove. Simultaneously, fireworks go off in the sky, which turns out to be a signal from the central forces that they've finished mopping up as well. Everyone starts celebrating, calling it a miracle, but gets questioned by Ariake if they really think it was because of some miracle. He further adds that this victory wasn't because of fate, but because they all bravely stood against the monsters who defeated the kingdom's knights. They braved their numbers to protect the town and won because of everyone present. With that being said, he suggests returning home, where they all are welcomed by the townsfolk and congratulated for their victory. Some days later, a couple of adventurers ask Ariake if he's already leaving, to which he agrees, saying that they've gotten enough rest. However, they argue that they still owe him so much, to which he replies that he can't handle this anymore. Concurrently, Oshun also appears, telling them to show Ariake some respect and let him leave. Additionally, Ariake thanks Oshun for all that he's done, and to his surprise, Oshun kneels and apologizes for his rude behavior before, reassuring Ariake that he would also like to appeal his license revocation. He further adds that they've written a letter to the kingdom regarding this matter, which turns out to be something a lazy sloth like Ariake doesn't appreciate. In the end, he asks Oshun not to be so formal with him, and Oshun agrees, planning to treat him to that pasta when he returns. With a firm handshake between the two, Ariake and Colette finally leave the town. On their way, she mentions how amazing her celestial form was and can't believe Ariake was able to draw that power out of her, as it might have been short but was an indescribable sensation. She then questions where they are headed, and Ariake replies that they are going to Olden Town, as it's a convenient stop due to the letter he has. Moreover, they will be passing through the Forest of Abundance, which happens to be the land of elves. Colette mentions that elves are quite hard to please, but according to Ariake, it depends on the individual, but they are considered hard to approach. She reassures him that she'd burn them all to a crisp if they dare challenge him, making Ariake wonder why she always thinks about burning stuff. Following that, Ariake begins stressing over the fact that Vivia and the others weren't called to handle the Devil's Grove, and even though they were close, he couldn't find any information about them. Suddenly, Colette stuffs his mouth with bread, telling him that now's not the time to worry, and suggests taking it easy by eating their fill. Elsewhere, Vivia, covered in blood, struggles to get out of the cave, questioning why this is happening to him when he's the hero. At this point, they are going to be completely obliterated because of that monster present there. Nonetheless, they all start running away, and after making a quick stop to catch their breath, Elga lets Vivia know that Pilala and Alicia are still left behind, but gets told by Vivia to forget about them for the moment and continue running before they get caught as well. Just then, a giant snake appears out of nowhere and attacks Vivia, causing him to crash into the cave wall. Following that, it tries to attack with its tail, but luckily, Elga manages to block it using his shield. Vivia tells him to stand his ground, as he's the shield of their party, and notices that he has no potions or MP to treat his wounds, which makes him wonder why this is happening to an S-rank hero like him. A few hours earlier, when they were about to enter the Cursed Grotto, Vivia mentioned that getting to the 50th floor should be a good warm-up, to which the others agree, saying that they've done it so many times and even a C rank could make it to the 50th floor. However, when Alicia asked if they had prepared enough items for the raid, Vivia replied that there's no need for it, as it's a low-level dungeon. She argued that they don't have Ariake anymore and should probably prepare more, only to be told that she worries too much and that they are definitely better off without that useless bag of meat. Pilala then questioned if she's being lazy and hoping to rely on items instead of supporting magic. Annoyed, Alicia replied that it's not what she meant, causing Pilala to confront her for her attitude. Furthermore, Vivia told Pilala that now she would be lighting up the dungeon instead of Ariake's place, which is one downside she found of losing their errand boy. Vivia reassured her that it should be easy for a great mage like her, making her blush. Additionally, he mentioned that their raid would be more fun without that dead weight, and when Delia agreed, Vivia pulled her towards himself, telling her that he would be relying on her as well. Afterward, he started thinking how easy it was to deal with those love-struck girls, and while Alicia is a little hard to approach, he is sure that he'd be able to bag her one day, as he's the chosen hero that will save the world. Additionally, he believed that once he defeated the Demon King, the country would give him that busty princess, and he might even become the king who'll rule over all the Brokies. With that being said, he suggested going inside, making Alicia a little disappointed as she had already tried warning him. While making their way deeper into the dungeon, they all nearly wet their pants after seeing a bat, and when Pulala mentioned that it nearly startled her, Vivia shouted at her, asking why it was so dark as they wouldn't be able to see enemies like this. However, Pulala replied that she can't seem to do any more of this, which made him even more furious as Ariake could easily light up the entire dungeon. Alicia interrupted, saying that Ariake was the only one who could do that because dungeons are like the insides of living beings and are brimming with their own magic, which is why outsiders like them had their own magic severely inhibited. Annoyed, Vivia questioned if she expected him to believe everything Ariake said when suddenly, a monster appeared out of nowhere and just in time. Delia managed to punch it, causing it to crash into a nearby wall. She then advised Vivia to quit with the Ariake talk and told him that they should just hurry up when unexpectedly, the monster got on its feet again and was about to attack Delia, but just in time, Elga appeared and blocked the attack using his shield. This made Vivia question why it isn't dead, yet as it usually took only one strike. Delia got frustrated and after charging up her attack, punched that monster several times and eventually ended it for good. She then wondered if it was finally over, and after checking on it, Elga gave them the green light. Confused, she asked why it didn't go in one punch, to which Vivia replied that it's because they can't see in there. Furthermore, he mocked Pulala for calling herself a great mage and not being able to light up the dungeon. However, when the others told him that he shouldn't say that, Vivia realized his mistake and apologized to everyone, saying that Pulala is trying her best and it's fine as they can at least see their path. Delia hesitantly agreed, calling him a well-spoken man, which made Vivia brag about being the chosen one who'd clear the dungeon with ease. Lastly, he once again apologized to Pulala for yelling at her, but as expected, she instantly forgave him. With that being said, he suggested going deeper but got interrupted by Alicia, who questioned if they'll be alright as they aren't used to fighting in such darkness. Furthermore, she advised them to withdraw and take a different approach. When Delia yelled at Alicia for trying to boss Vivia around, he told her that it was alright as Alicia is just worried about him. Moreover, he let Alicia know that she's being way too cautious and turning their backs to the enemy would only make it more dangerous, which is why they should keep moving, and called it the hero's command. Alicia couldn't help, but while the other baddies started fawning over their hero. But when he asked Alicia if she understood, Alicia simply ignored him, which made him even more furious at her for looking down on him. Additionally, he was aware that the hero can't withdraw from a C-rank dungeon, as if that happened, not only to the public but also the kingdom would toss him aside. He also believed that it's Pulala's fault for not lighting up the dungeon correctly while Delia and Elga were moving pretty slow as well. Just then, he noticed something and reminded Delia that they'd been here a couple of times and questioned if they were lost. She made an excuse by saying that she couldn't see the way due to how dark it was, making Vivia confront her for getting lost with a map. He further added that Ariake was able to guide them the first time they came here. Alicia intervened and told him that Ariake was able to guide them by making constant revisions, but even if they had a complete map, they are basically walking blind with how dark it is. Just then, she found a mark that Ariake left for them the last time they were here, and when Vivia suggests moving forward, Alicia once again questioned if he's truly prepared. They are currently on the 25th floor, and are already struggling with the darkness. If Ariake was here, he would have advised them to withdraw. However, Vivia argued that they'd already come this far, to which Alicia replied that she only wanted them to proceed with caution as the enemies would be much stronger now. Enraged, Vivia told her that they are just getting used to the new item, and the way she kept mentioning Ariake is starting to get on his nerves. Suddenly, everyone felt a deadly aura surrounding them, which made them tremble and wonder if there was a boss monster nearby. Alicia mentioned that the enemy was coming, and when Vivia ordered everyone to prepare for battle, Delia replied that she could barely stand right now. But to their surprise, that monster turned out to be just a little skeleton knight. Relieved, Vivia said that if everyone just kept calm, it wouldn't have gotten the jump on them, and drew his sword while calling the skeleton a weakling from a C-rank dungeon. With a single strike, he managed to take down the skeleton and started receiving compliments from the hotties. Just then, he realized the skeleton's sword had already pierced his body, which made him wonder how it was still alive, as one hit should have been enough to eliminate him. At this point, even Ariake had started freaking out, questioning why it was able to counterattack and why there is a hole in his gut. The skeleton knight then took out his sword from Vivia's body, which made him scream in pain like a little coward. Just when the skeleton knight was about to attack him once again, Elga came running with his sword and tried attacking it. But the skeleton easily managed to dodge the strike and mocked him by making sure to laugh its heart out. Vivia is glad that Elga saved him, but couldn't believe he missed such an easy attack, while Delia wondered if skeleton knights were always this strong. But Pulala disagreed, telling her that the skeleton knights aren't supposed to be this strong, as they are weak monsters that can be defeated around level 20. Meanwhile, Elga once again charged towards the skeleton knight, and this time, not only did he get easily blocked, but he even started getting overwhelmed by it. Vivia questioned why he's getting pushed back and if all those muscles are just for show. To his surprise, Elga replied by telling him to shut up as he's the first one to go down. Simultaneously, Delia came running towards them, telling Vivia and Elga to get out of her way as she was about to punch the living world out of that monster. However, even after she punched it with all her might, the skeleton managed to easily defend itself, which made her question how that was even possible. Afterward, the skeleton knight pushed her away and attacked her with an energy beam which sent her flying and made her immobile. Pulala couldn't believe such a low-level attack did that much damage and asked everyone why they are so weak right now. This made Vivia told her to use her support magic, to which she replied that she had been using her strongest buffs on both their attack and defense, so everything should be the same as always. Vivia couldn't believe what he just heard and questioned if she was saying that they were currently at their best right now. Just then, the skeleton knight attacked Elga, causing him to go down as well. At this point, Vivia started losing it and got teary eyes as he was aware that an S-rank hero like him shouldn't be losing to this weakling. However, just when he was about to go completely insane, Alicia used her skill named Angel's Breath to heal everyone in the vicinity. Furthermore, she told everyone that it's obvious this was happening, and it was because Ariake wasn't with them. This came as a shock to Vivia, who questioned why she brought his name, as all he did was stand back and watch. After spraying the skeleton with some holy water, Alicia told him that holy water immobilizes undead monsters and decided to explain everything, as Vivia always seemed really ignorant. She started off by telling him that Ariake's backup skill allowed their offense and defense to be so powerful, and with his support, anyone could easily become an A-rank adventurer. However, Vivia argued that it's not possible, telling Alicia that this power was his as he achieved it on his own. Alicia replied that Vivia used to ignore everything that Ariake said, just as he was doing now, telling him to be free to believe anything he wanted. Furthermore, with a blush on her face, Alicia added that Ariake wouldn't let such a trivial matter bother him. Now that they can all stand after getting healed, Alicia suggested changing their strategy a bit, as they couldn't continue going any further without Ariake, and withdrawing would be the best course of action. Additionally, she questioned Vivia if he didn't mind, since continuing like that would only result in their deaths. With that being said, she told everyone that they would be retreating from the dungeon, and ultimately, everyone was forced to follow her orders. On their way back, Vivia started cursing himself for being so exhausted when they had only made it back to floor 15, and told Alicia to heal them a bit more. But she refused, as spending her MP right now would be unwise, considering how much it took to fully heal everyone. Having no other choice, he asked to use the potions instead and was told that there were very few items left. He then told Pulala to hand over one of her potions, but even she refused, telling him that she barely had any left and needed to use magic too. But when Vivia argued that she hadn't been using any magic, Pulala mentioned that it was just a precaution and reminded him that her MP exceeded 10,000. Curious, Vivia asked Alicia if Pulala was telling the truth and told her to check her MP, as both of them were magic users. Knowing how confirming combat capabilities was a necessity, Alicia revealed that Pulala's MP is nearly depleted. When Pulala tried confronting her for running her mouth, she replied that it was evident by the light source waning, to which Delia agreed, saying that it seemed darker than before. Getting roasted by everyone, Pulala tried bailing herself out by reassuring them that she had made sure to properly manage it, only to be told by Alicia that her 10,000 MP was all thanks to Ariake's backup skill. After questioning Alicia what she was saying, Pulala grabbed her by her collar and told her to quit lying. She further said that Alicia was only trying to get back at her for always roasting her in the past, and told her not to be so arrogant. However, Alicia calmly replied that Puala's strength came from Ariake's backup, which made her the arrogant one in this situation. Enraged, Puala tried punching her in the face, but stopped when a voice told every single one of them to be silent. It further questioned how insects like them dared to disturb its slumber. Vivia couldn't believe what he was seeing as he recognized that monster as Fenrir, which belonged to the 99th floor. Realizing that it was just some pests making all that noise, Fenrir mentioned that they'll fill its belly. Vivia started trembling in fear as he wondered why the hell's watchdog Fenrir, who was level 99th floor boss, was doing down here. Puala added the fact that even S-rank adventurers would have their hands full fighting that thing and tried running, but was told by Vivia to stop as they'd all be eliminated if they did anything rash. Vivia figured that their old party could have defeated it, but now they need to run, and knowing that it wouldn't be easy running away from Fenrir, Vivia realized that they'll be needing a decoy. As Alicia is an S-rank adventurer like him, he'd need her. Same goes for Elga as a shield and Delia for her offense, which leaves only Puala behind. Completely unaware of what's about to happen, Puala tried telling Vivia that they needed to escape, only to get punched in the guts by him, which caused her to fall onto the ground. Vivia took this chance to search her pockets, and when Elga questioned what he was doing, Vivia completely ignored him and found all the potions she was hiding, which he would use for his escape. Elga once again argued that this wasn't the time to abandon an ally, to which Vivia replied that they were going to get help, and this was their only move. When he questioned if they were just going to leave her behind, Vivia told him that there's no abandoning her. Considering how she's out of magic already, the rest of them are better off fighting without her. Delia also agreed with Vivia, saying that they need to leave and get help immediately. Lastly, he reassured Puala that she just needed to hang in there until help arrived, but what he really meant was that her job's to buy as much time as possible before she bites the dust. With that being said, he told Alicia to come along, but she refused, saying that she would be stopping Fenrir herself. Vivia questioned what she was trying to pull, and all Alicia did was put a barrier between them, telling them to just go away. Realizing how the barrier might buy them even more time, Vivia didn't hesitate to leave them and run away, although regretting the fact that he was forced to leave Alicia behind, as she could have been useful in the future. The other two lackeys also ended up running after Vivia, while all Puala could do was yell at them, promising to curse them all to death. This made Fenrir question if she really had the time to curse them, and when Alicia mentioned that he made casting curses sound simple, Fenrir replied that it's because it was for him. She further mentioned how unfortunate this was, as she just couldn't feel motivated without a certain someone present here. Puala, annoyed, asked Alicia how she could just stand there and talk, only to be told by Alicia to be quiet. She further mentioned she had no intention of dying today. Even Fenrir couldn't help but praise the determination in her eyes, making him question if taking revenge on her companions drove her, or does she believe that she could save the world. But to their surprise, Alicia replied that she couldn't care less about such nonsense, as there was only one reason for her to fight, and that was to see Ariake again and get them cakes clapped. Confused, Puala questioned what's gotten into Alicia, and she revealed that Ariake's her beloved, the only true hero of this world. Puala freaked out and asked how she could love that useless idiot with no unique skill, but stopped talking when Alicia almost messed up her pretty face. With that being said, Alicia mentioned that she was wrong about him not having a unique skill, as if one were to ask her, Ariake's existence itself was very unique. Furthermore, Alicia apologized to Fenrir, asking if he could give them a few moments to talk, to which he agreed and said that this was quite intriguing. After that, Alicia began explaining and told Puala that she scoured through the tomes across the lands, and one answer stood out which made her believe that Ariake's unique skill was called the God of Buffs. This reminded Puala that she had heard of it before, and Alicia replied that it's a fairy tale from over 1,000 years ago. That story was about a hero appearing to save the world who would be served by a god who performed a great variety of support. When Puala questioned if Alicia was saying that Ariake is a god, she disagreed, telling her that Ariake was chosen by God. In that story, the god aided the hero, and without this god of buffs, the Demon King could not have been defeated. Whether it was through supportive skills, item management, or guidance, their party was only able to get this far thanks to Ariake. He provided perfect support for a hero's party, just like the story, and in reality, their powers were always his powers, which was quite prominent now, as without him, they struggled to even eliminate a mere skeleton knight. Eventually, Fenrir questioned if the two of them were finished, and realizing that they had run out of time, Alicia was glad that she got to express how strong Ariake was and gave Pilala some support items which she could use to support her from behind. However, Pilala argued that she could barely feel her legs and was told by Fenrir that squishing a mere pest would be trivial for him. But when Alicia asked to let such a pest run away, Fenrir replied that he had been trapped in the dungeon for ages, and she might alleviate his boredom. With that being said, Fenrir crushed the ground around himself, and without wasting any time, Pilala made sure to book it, surprising Alicia about how fast she could run with all the items that didn't even belong to her. Following that, Fenrir told Alicia that her barrier had faded, and if he wanted, he could run down those pests that got away. But Alicia replied that it didn't matter as the barrier was not meant for their escape, but to keep them from getting in her way. Noticing that something was wrong with Alicia's aura, Fenrir tried attacking her, but was stopped by Alicia, who asked if he was surprised, asking if he really thought he could defeat her in one hit. With that being said, she pushed Fenrir away, saying that she would now show what she was capable of. Do you think Ariake will appear to save Alicia from Fenrir's fangs? Comment magic if you'd like a part 2 of this series. As usual, thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.